That's all we want, and that's no promise play. Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Good morning, good afternoon, I guess, if you're in the UK, of course, or good evening if you're somewhere else. Welcome to Talking Reds, Nottingham Forest podcast. So the lads come back home to the city ground ready to drop the hammers. With so much mystery and now radio silence surrounding the Nuno and the Edo situation, how will the Reds secure the 3 points and achieve 7 points in 3 matches? Could a loss to Forest potentially seal Potter's fate? Could we see Sangare leave the club in a last-minute deal? Could Forest finally find the coveted fullback depth they need? Joining me, Richard Spray, is the master of the spreadsheet and new anointed chairman of the Dan and Doy Fan Club. He's a chairman of 2 fan clubs right now. Danscape, how are you, sir?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm expanding my empire into the Dan and Doy Fan Club. I'll have to get a poster set up, I think,
Excellent.
for that one.
I was going to say the digital frame needs updating. Fantastic. Yeah. Also joining us, of course, is that wonderful man bund member of our squad and PSR guru who is back from his own jaunt to Rome. Raf the Random Pundit, buddy. It's great to have you back. How are you, sir?
Oh, so good to be back. And very, very jelly belly about not being on with you guys with what was absolutely mad 4 days while I was out of Rome. Phone was buzzing. I didn't really have time to actually catch up on all of it, but I'm back, and there is a lot to talk about today.
Definitely. We will get to that in a second, but an ode to our wonderful host who's not with us today. This is the third in the trilogy of the Richard intros. So we'll just kick it off with
Hey,
this.
it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody calm down.
Murillo clears long towards Ndoye. Up against Chris Richards. He's done well, Ndoye. And then feeds it forward towards Hudson-Odoi. And Hudson-Odoi is clean through. Inside right channel.
Yes,
and scores! Henderson gets a toe to it, but that only deflects it into the top corner. Fabulous ball from Dan Ndoye to release Callum Hudson. Murillo wins the next challenge and then steps forward, does Murillo, and feeds it in towards Igor Jesus. Now can Jesus get onto this? Yes, he can. Inside left channel. Into the box he goes. Oh, he's hit the inside of the post. Firing it across the face of goal. Still kept alive. McAtee finds Hutchinson and he blazes it.
Absolute nonsense. Absurd. This narrative is absurd.
I can't lie. Today, Ibrahim Sangare was playing like prime Vieira. Look at him. Hey! Look at No, not Kaka. Today was... It been joué.
Had to throw in the Ola right at the end there just for Raf's return, right? But hey, we need that. We need those vibes as well, right, Dan? We keep continuing the conversation around vibes because he brings the vibes as always. But yeah, minefields. That's what I kind of felt like it was in my head today. It was just, gosh, too many things that are going on. But there's some oddities around the whole Nuno situation, as we know. We'll get onto that, of course. But hey, before we get there, let's jump into this real quick. So Raf had brought this up beforehand. What seemed like the inevitability, right? I can't believe it's here, but I'm so excited because we actually have multiple players in the England squad for the first time in a long time. So, I'll kick it off with you, Raf. What are your thoughts on Elliot Anderson? We long suspected, and he's shown nothing this season thus far to dispel the idea that he should be in the England squad, right?
Oh, completely. It's so well justified. The interesting spin is a lot of people are saying that he's been included because Bellingham is injured and Henderson is still in the squad, but I don't really care. He's in it. It's absolutely amazing. And he will let his skill do the talking. And when it comes to Bellingham being back, I don't think he's being dropped at all. He's absolutely brilliant. And as you can see, this is the other gem that I found, which just shows the fact of why. And in small sample size, 2 games thus far, but he's the number 1 passing player in the Premier League so far in this early stage of the Premier League. That is under pressure, without pressure, and one-time for one touch passing as well are all the things that have leaped him to the top of that metric. So this is super exciting times. I'm really chuffed for him. He really deserves it. And this is off the back of one breakout season and then a fantastic tournament. And the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. Yeah. I mean, we've long suspected, Dan, right, that his game was just, it was evolving rapidly. And we saw it last season when at the beginning of the season, we were wondering, how is he going to fit in? We knew he had the skills. Obviously we knew that, the Newcastle folk coveted him and were hoping to keep him, but they didn't. And thankfully that meant he came to us. So what are your thoughts on this for Elliot Anderson? The fact that Morgan Gibbs-White's included now, anybody else on the squad that was a bit of a surprise to you, or that you might be excited about in terms of who's going to be playing for England in the upcoming match?
I mean, Jed Spence being in there is interesting. That's a good for him. Obviously, the ex-Forest player there, and he's kind of finally kicked on with Spurs and got some game time, and he's proven that he was as good as we all thought he was for us in the Championship, basically, which is always good to see. In terms of Anderson, I mean, always thought he was an exciting prospect, but never imagined he would go on to kind of prove to be this comfortable at the level so quickly at his age and everything. I feel like he could sort of play any position on the pitch and he'd sort of stand out as being, a good player, and he just thrives in the heart of our midfield. So yeah, well deserved. Perhaps not the best time in terms of, obviously we've got a load of new players and we're trying to get them all to know each other, and he's going to go away for 2 weeks. So maybe the next international break would have been preferable for him to get a call up, but obviously wouldn't deny it to him, and it'll bring him back with more confidence and more experience as well. Some of the players he's going to be obviously training with and stuff, it will only help him. So yeah, massive news in the long run as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little bit, when Raf said Morgan Gibbs-White, I don't know why in my mind I felt like it was a foregone conclusion, because I thought maybe, Tuco was at the last match, and I think he was harshly rated on places like SofaScore. He didn't quite have his best match, clearly, and he obviously contributed to the goal, actually, and to the build-up play to the goal because of his error and kind of doing one of his unadvised flicks and tricks, back healing it just around our box. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy, obviously, Forest have 2 England players. I think it just validates what we already knew about the club is really ascending in terms of the quality and the talent. And we know how far he's come since we picked him up from Wolves in that first year of the Premier League. But yeah, very exciting. Very exciting. I've been perusing the World Cup tickets over here, and in case you're wondering, it's absolutely outrageous. It's like almost impossible to get any tickets. And if you do, you better be a multimillionaire, because you won't be able to afford it, because apparently all the corporate folks in the Dallas area, for example, which is just south of me, have been snatching those up and to wine and dine their clients. So yeah, I'm hoping to get my son to one of those matches. I think it would be a great experience for him, because he absolutely loves England and loves Forest, of course. So, well, excellent. Any other thoughts, guys, on that situation before we kind of switch gears and actually get to the West Ham match?
No, but not on that specifically. But I've got the Europa draw live, and this
I was about to say,
messing around with all the balls at the minute, so we're not missing anything there.
It's just what you want to do when you've got a new system and you're trying to show it's got integrity. You've got a magician that's making balls disappear in front of you and moving from pot to pot. I mean, you can't make it up.
Builds a lot of confidence, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So everyone who's listening and watching right now, we'll just let you know, we are kind of keep a weathering eye, both Dan and Raf. As you could probably imagine, when you're in this seat, it's like you're bouncing around between too many things. So thank goodness these boys are on here to give great insights on things, but also to keep an eye on what's going on with the Europa draw. All right. So one other thing I wanted to quickly kick on to before we get to West Ham, because we're going to at least see one of these wonderful shirts, is, in honor of Greg and his love of Forest shirts. And he's got me kind of hooked on that too. You can see him wearing something sort of akin to the one that's just been released. Any thoughts, Dan, on the new kit? I think this is a pretty good range of shirts, I have to say. I think I'm pretty impressed with the red one's an absolute classic. The one with the lace on it has a personal connection for me in my heart, because my grandfather, who got me into Forest at a young age, he worked for Simon May for 45, 50 years, close to 50 years. Started as a bike messenger and a courier to different lace shops in the Nottingham area, and then ended up like an executive level with that company. And of course, there's the lace reference within the design. So, any thoughts on the shirts, real quick, before we switch into the match? Because I just thought, man, these are all bangers in my mind. I can't wait to get over there in October, and I have money saved specifically for buying 3 shirts, one of which will have Nico Williams on the back. I've already told Raf. So go ahead, Dad, if you have any thoughts on that.
I love the away shirt. I've not got it yet, but I love it. I'm planning to get it next time I'm down there. The third kit, I need to see it in person. I feel like I need to see that one. I'm not convinced on the pattern. I feel like if that had been just a nice plain navy orange, that would have been right up my street. But that's personal preference. But yeah, I need to see it. And as ever with all kits, if we get a few nice memorable wins in them, then they become legendary. So that's what we really need behind the design as well, is a few performances.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like template-like, right, in terms of that background sort of weird geometric thing, because it's I mean, I guess we did that last season too with the pink and the dark blue. But Raf, what are your thoughts on that? Are you excited to get? Do you have any of these yet?
Yes, I've got the away shirt.
Nice.
Proudly Anderson 8 is on the back of that. Kel very kindly gave me some aesthetic advice and said Anderson looked better on the away shirt than the home shirt. So I took that advice, and it is top. So thank you. And I think, as you know, Nico's going on the home shirt. I might get it when I am at the game this Sunday, if they have stock of what I particularly want. Otherwise, that will be on order. Agree with Danscape about the away at the third strip. But to be fair, it's a nice blend. I think these are really good mixture and so spot on. It's about the memories in certain shirts, I think. And hopefully this is going to be, as we can see, exactly.
Last European trip.
Yeah. I genuinely, the squad is shaping up to have an absolute banger of a season. So let's see where we get to.
For sure. Yeah, that was we talked about it, right, Dan, after the match last week. It was just mind-blowing to me that the depth difference and the structure of the bench compared to what it was last season. So, and hopefully there's more on the way too, which we'll get into in a little bit when it comes to the fullbacks. But one thing I did want to talk about, and I had it kind of referenced in my in that intro, just the status of these two managers. It kind of adds a little bit of a dimension to this match, because as you and I were kind of talking, Raf, beforehand. So I kind of want to kick it over to you first. Just the idea of what's going to happen potentially with Graham Potter, because it feels like the sands of the hourglass are starting to run out, right? Because it doesn't feel like anything's really progressing for them as a team. I mean, if they get they've got Mateus Fernandez coming in, obviously. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on just what dimension that adds to the match, that Potter's on the hot seat, and any thoughts about Nuno, because you've been away when all of this stuff has been going on with Nuno and trying to kind of pitch in as you could, but you were pretty busy. So I know you really haven't had a chance to voice your thoughts on the Nuno situation. So just on the two managers as we lead into the match.
So the West Ham's is a really interesting one, because their club is a total shambles. Like, it is from top to bottom, it's a total shambles. Senior executives, shambles. Potter's now been in. He's had all close season. He's had pre-season, and they're still not firing in the new season. But I mean, the same could be said of Amarim as well. So things are really not all well within West Ham. Fernandez signed 2 hours ago, so it's before deadline. So Potter was apparently given 2 games, which is not exactly the biggest sign of support. He's already messed up one, so he really, really needs a win at Forest. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do you stick or twist with Fernandez? He's come in now. He's probably going to have an afternoon training session and maybe a light one tomorrow. But he is in, as you know, I love the phrase, the engine room. He's in the engine room of that team. Okay. They need legs in midfield. They need speed in midfield. He can bring that, and he can be that transition of ball very quickly to Bowen, which is their massive threat. So does he start this amazing player that can enable that? Or is that actually going to be a total problem for them and cause them further problems? Because in that short time, if you're the progressive passer, do you understand where everyone else is moving on the pitch that you're supposed to be passing to? And so you just start pinging around stray balls and you just lose possession the whole time. So I don't envy Potter in this really tiny situation of picking in between A and B. I think it's his own making of what he's got right now, plus also the club in an absolute mess. So I'm not sure what they'll do, but it doesn't seem like Magassa has actually signed in time to even be a factor of to play him or not, unless he signed in the 2 minutes before we came on.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Oh,
go ahead, Dan.
Dan, do you know?
Some of our fixtures are out. I think some of our fixtures
wow.
are out in the Europa League. Let's have a quick look. We have
I've
got
missed
Porto.
it while I was talking.
We've got Porto. That was on my list. Obviously you don't know yet.
You wanted the sunny destination, right?
Yeah, you don't know the venues yet, I don't think, till later on. But I don't know how it works. It's got
no, the grid. You'll know homes and aways. They do tell you home and away.
Okay. Yes, it's a little like Porto have got Rangers, Salzburg, Red Star Belgrade, Victoria Pleasant, however that is, Nice, Malmo, Utrecht, and Forest in that pot one draw. So I don't know how that. I don't know exactly how it works. Should have researched it.
So that was, I don't know, that's the home or away. So from pot one, we're expecting now the reverse of our home or away, which we don't have against one of these other pot ones, which will come.
So do we play all those? Are those 8 teams the teams we play as well as?
No, it's not. So this is all from pot one's perspective, and we will play home and away, one member of pot one and another member of pot one, and then a home and away for pot two, and a home and away for pot three, etc., etc. So we'll find out one more fixture from this pot one, but it's Porto from pot one so far, and I was talking, I didn't see if it was home or away, but we'll know when the next one comes up. Okay. But on the Nuno situation, very, very quickly, sorry for the distraction all.
Thank you, Dan.
It's very cryptic. There are tons of rubbish that's out there. There's stuff from Taylor that was kindly sent on by Dan, you and Paul talking about it this morning. It's from Monday. And it's just, there's no fact in there. It's all conjecture. And at the end of the day, I'm just taking a step back and thinking about this logically, right? If Nuno has effectively been given a gilt-edged squad and he's got Europa, why would you walk away from this project right now? And I think even he's come out to say, look, I don't want to go anywhere, I don't think. So then you're putting yourself in Marinakis' spot. And Marinakis has actually listened to the fans a lot. When we look at Cooper and him having an execution of stay, the stadium and all the plans for all of those bits and pieces, although who knows what's going to happen in the future of that. So while Nuno's on side and the fans are massively behind him, then I don't think Nuno's going anywhere. And also, after the transfer window, Edu's not really around that much. His role's diminished as to what he's doing, and we can be just left on to get on with it. So I don't think anything's going to happen until nearer the January window, unless we start losing a truckload of games with this gilt-edged squad. But I think in there, that's why Nuno was firing out to say, I haven't had this squad to be able to build them as people together in pre-season, which is what I like to do. And I think he was buying himself some time with this very expensive squad, because make no question about it, Marinakis has gone all in trying to get us Champions League. It is like, of what we have bought and the financial situation we're in, it's like he did when we came up, and it worked. The big man is rolling the dice again, and he's gone all in with this squad to try and get either top 5 or win Europa. And I think it's probably win Europa, I think, is what he's after.
Yeah, I mean, it could be specific players that we know he might have an issue with, but I would say that for the most part, he's been given a set of quality players that he certainly didn't have the last season. So I agree with you, Raf. I mean, it's easy to kind of get caught up in the radio silence being an indication of something, but I almost wonder, just given the sort of very transparent nature of some of the previous comments, at least in terms of giving us at least peeling back the curtain a bit on where Nuno was at, because as we've said, he just generally doesn't do it that way, right? He's generally not the most he doesn't seem to enjoy the press side of things as much, and so he's been a little bit less direct about things. But Dan, I mean, is there any concern from your perspective, or is it just sort of like, hey, we're just kicking on we're just not going to make this a big deal anymore. We're not going to keep putting things out there into the media or make an official statement or do any of that stuff. We're just going to move on. And the silence should tell you a lot. It should tell you, you know what? We're just going to professionally move forward. We're not going to worry about this and let it affect us and distract us. Minefields, if you will. Go ahead.
I think it's delay. It's getting it to the right point, isn't it? There's no point having another distraction before another game right now. So you've got a 2-week break after this game. So, it makes sense to just push it back anyway, whatever's going on. It's not going to affect the next game. But, I don't know whether the logic applies anymore. We saw it this summer with Gibbs White and we didn't know what was going on. We heard different sided stories. And in the end, you don't really know what to expect. It feels like logic is out the window. You can talk about good squads and opportunity and all that, but I don't get the impression Nuno's really got an issue with the squad or the players or what he's aiming to do. I think it clearly is a more personal thing, isn't it? It's about something that's going on behind the scenes, whether it's respect or control or just a clash of personality. It's something like that, which has got to the point where Nuno's trying to play some kind of hand on his side of it to say, look, I'm important here. I've done a good job. I'm important. I'm the guy who goes in front of the fans and does a press conference. So if I say something, it affects the club. So you've got to respect me a bit in this process. So I think that's part of it. It's part of it. And
sorry, guys, technical difficulties there. Greg making an appearance out of nowhere.
Well, I was going to say, I know Greg's coming in on this.
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
So, when it comes down to personal stuff like that and relationships and all that, it's hard, isn't it, from the outside? It is all conjecture and speculation. There's no doubt we're investing to have a good season, and there's no doubt Nuno can deliver us a good season, or at least should be given the opportunity to do that. So, off
we've got Malmo.
There we go. Another one.
Oh, my goodness.
So we've got our fixtures. We've got our fixtures. Yeah, and I need my screen to res up so I can actually read some of these names. Here we go. So we've got Porto at home, Real Betis, Fenerbahce at home, Braga away, Midtjylland at home, and now the screen has gone. There we go. Perfect, Brucey. Thank you very much. Stone Graz, Malmo at home, Untracht, yeah. Amazing. So actually, if we look at those,
I mean, from a winnable game point of view.
Someone's going to kill you for that, Dan.
There's a couple in there, especially at home.
Poking the bear.
I'd like Porto away, but Porto at home.
But no, seriously, out of that, Betis away, probably, but the rest of those, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Betis away,
Steve saying that you
can't beat them. It's just from do you know what? Are great fixtures. Those are great fixtures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm confident. I think it was Steve Battlemuch who said, like, a couple of tough matches, but maybe a few that feel a little bit more plausible, right, for us to advance through. So we won't use the dreaded W word anymore. Sorry, Elliot.
Yeah.
Who was on Red Side of the Trent yesterday and did a great job. So appreciate him. And I actually
he's got a permanent fixture on Red Side of the Trent. So well done, Elliot. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent, buddy. Yeah, he's a great guy. If you get a chance, check out the One With episode that we did with him. He's absolutely brilliant, and his facts are just unparalleled. His little facts that he throws out there on X and other platforms are just absolutely fantastic. This is Leanne, who I work with. She's our wonderful chief nursing officer and chief ambulatory officer. Handles all of our surgeries, clinics, as we call them in the U.S. So appreciate her jumping on randomly. Gets up early. She's an early riser. Greg, we got Greg in the comments too. Good to see you, Greg. Apologies, buddies. I'm trying to get your videos. They're having a hard time loading. So we got at least one of them to load. So I'm happy to share your perspectives on things. But you had some stuff to say about Nuno as well. And sorry, buddy, it's my fault for having some issues with my internet and some other things trying to get some of these loaded. Well, hey, we got to kick on because we got to talk about the match. I appreciate Dan's comments too on Nuno because I agree with what he shared. Hopefully everything's going to kind of move forward and they've given him the squad that he needs to compete and be successful this season, as we all believe he has. All right, so we do need to do the stat portion.
I'm a stat man. Moraes fazendo som, fazendo som. Pedrinha Moraes fazendo som. fazendo som, de Pedrinha Moraes fazendo som.
Alrighty, buddy. No. It's just so hard to get rid of. It's so classic. That Jimmy Nottingham Forest video of Bali is just absolutely amazing. Go ahead, Dan.
So into the stats for, let's get back to this game at hand, I guess. In terms of Forest and West Ham. So what I've been working on in the old spreadsheet dungeon is trying to come up with some ways of kind of scoring our games almost. Trying to come up with like a bit of a performance rating that just captures the basics as well as some of the obviously the specifics of what we do. So I've put together a few of our recent performances and then a couple of West Ham performances just to demonstrate sort of where these teams are at. I mean, look, there's no surprises. Everyone knows West Ham are struggling, but I suppose, some of it reviews our performance and then looks at how we've done against West Ham as well. So I suppose the Palace game last week is the first chart. So at the top, you can see the kind of the score, the grading I've given the performance, which is a B for us, like a 60% ranking in our performances in the Premier League. So this is all since the 22-23 season. And the rankings are for the team, so it's how that team has performed against their own performances as opposed to everybody else in the league. So it's, it's your own scorecard, if you like. So it's kind of like a B performance. On the left are the kind of defensive chart comparing us and Palace in that game. And on the right is the more attacking side of things. So, the chart on the right is good. We are filling that chart with a nice red infill, which is always good for Forest. Ball carrying, progressive passing, everything is all good. But we didn't convert that into chances and we didn't really, actually score quite high on that penetration score. So although it was a good performance, the reason it's like a B is because we didn't actually convert it into chances to score goals in that game. And this is obviously always the danger with saying, yeah, it's great to have possession, but you've got to do something with it still. So we didn't quite do that in that game in an attacking sense. And one thing that's popped up in a lot of the numbers is our set piece impact hasn't been great generally. I know we got the goal from Chris Wood against Brentford, but other than that, we've not really been hitting the levels that we usually do in terms of the shots and things we're creating from set pieces. So that's the Palace game, which is like a B. If we go along, just go back, I suppose, to the Brentford game, that is an A star, as everyone would expect. Not our best performance, but right up there as one of the best performances that we've had since being back in the Premier League. And you can see on the right, that attacking chart pretty much filled. Again, we could have created more chances from the possession and the dominance we had. But our wing play and our kind of playmaking was as good as it's been in that game. So in terms of, going out wide and getting crosses into the box, in terms of putting through balls and switching the ball and all that sort of stuff, right up there. Finishing, again, obviously, right up there. We just took our chances that we had. Obviously, on all our defensive charts this season, the more we dominate the ball, the less defending we will have to do. So you will see a drop in a lot of our defensive numbers. So it's not something that you can directly, worry about until maybe we face some of the top teams, when you'll see those kind of performances again. So that was the Brentford game. So A star on that one. And then this is looking at West Ham's performance v Chelsea, where they lost 5-1 by comparison. And you can see they are struggling, right? They're getting an F for that performance. Chelsea get an A for it. Pretty good from Chelsea's point of view. The only thing that stands out for West Ham is that they were quite good at, carrying the ball in that game in terms of some of their more tricky players, the likes of probably Wan-Bissaka, Diouf, Bowen. They have got some players that are kind of good on the ball, but as a team, they weren't creating chances. They didn't really have anything else that stood out. They didn't get the ball forward well. They didn't really try and get the ball into spaces or go wide and put crosses in. So they hit that brick wall. And on the sort of defensive side on the left, the only bit that stood out is that, they had a reasonable impact on set pieces, which might be something to worry about or consider for us. So yeah, they are a struggling team. They are scoring an F. And this then looks at when we played them last season away from home, when we won that game 2-1. And we get an A star for that performance. Possibly a bit of an underrated performance given when it came in the season. And obviously the narrative was we just dropped off, but we put this performance in, and this was a strong performance all around. We created chances, we took chances. And what is interesting on the defensive chart on the left is this game was our highest pressing score in my data, which, is limited to whatever's on FB Ref. But in terms of how far up the pitch we were tackling, and how often we were going and winning that ball, that was our highest pressing performance, and also our highest Eshousery performance, which is always nice. So we went for that game. That was almost a bit of a tester, an indicator of what we've seen this season, is that bit more front foot. We really took that game to them, and the goal came, didn't it? From pressing their goalkeeper tried to play the ball out and played it right into trouble, and that's how we got our first goal. So I would expect us to do something similar again this time, because we've shown we can do it. And then I suppose looking at our performances against West Ham generally, so because they've got this performance score, they can go back through all of our games since 22-23. And on the left are our top 10 performances against any team in the league. And 3 of our top performances have come against West Ham. 2 at home and that 1 away. So if there's a team that we tend to perform well against, or that tend to let us perform well, it's been West Ham so far. The 3-0 win at home last season, obviously, yes, they had a man sent off, which sways things a bit, but that's the top performance that we've had in terms of just dominating a game and not giving them chances, and us creating chances and taking chances. Also, the 2-0 that we beat them at home under Nuno as well is up there. In terms of West Ham's top 10 performances, though, interestingly, that 4-0 when they beat us away is their best performance on this kind of rating system. So they potentially got it in them, but that was obviously under David Moyes when they still had Declan Rice and they still had a decent team. So that's what I've been working away on and looking at, and I think it's just one of those where West Ham seem to be a team that we perform well against so far. Hopefully that continues going into this game, especially when you consider, where they're at the minute.
Do you think that press is going to be employed, that we're going to go front foot and try to really attack them from the get-go? Because it's easy to do against a Brentford squad when they're missing some serious weapons on their team, in Wissa and Damsgaard, even Norgard as a stalwart in the middle, who moved on to Arsenal. So is that something you can see happening again? I don't think the Eshousery is going to stop, right? That's part of our calling card now. Maybe not quite as Eshousery as a Millwall or maybe even Everton, but maybe we are, because we're 100% I think on your scale. So any thoughts on that press, Dan, that we might try to do that? Because it seemed like when we've done it pretty well and it's effective.
Yeah, I think you do it. You just have to time it, don't you? It's easy to say to press high, but you can't do it for 90 minutes. It's just more effort. It's just more energy.
Yeah.
And it's also more risk, because everybody has to work together. So if one person, gets it wrong, you can leave a big space in behind. So you can't do it for 90 minutes. I don't think you can go out and dominate a game in that way for 90 minutes. You've got to almost choose, right, we're going to go out and spend the first 20 minutes high press, put the pressure on, try and get the goal, and then we can manage the game. Or you've got to space out when you do it throughout the game. So I think we'll start strong. I think we'll go for this game and try and obviously get the lead, and then we should be into our comfort zone then in terms of holding on to a lead and hitting teams on the break.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Excellent work, Dan. Appreciate it. Raf, do you have anything to add to any of that?
No. It's good. All of that kind of historic positivity, and if you think, they're probably even in a worse situation than they were over those 18 months now. There's no reason. I do think the first goal's key, but what I really want to see is us put our foot on their throat and go for it, and just not try and coast away with a 1-0 and defend it. I just want us to go full bore attack and score 3 at least, and just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hear what Greg has to say. He had a nice video that he put on that I accidentally hit as we were trying to listen to Dan talk about Nuno. So, learning little by little some the deft touch that one needs in this role. So we appreciate Greg that he's got that deft touched, and I apparently do not at this stage. So hopefully that'll change in future. So let's get Greg talking about West Ham here.
I tipped West Ham to go down. They were in my bottom 3 at the start of the season, along with Brentford, who were terrible against us on the first game of the season. And as I said a moment ago, they've looked better. I still think Brentford will go down in the long run, and West Ham look the worst team in the league. I haven't seen a lot of action in the last 9 days because I've been on my trip, but I do know enough from reading and from listening that West Ham look all over the shop. So when they come to the City Ground on Sunday, I am expecting 3 points. Nothing less is going to be acceptable in my eyes. even if West Ham turn up and give their best performance of the season, this Nottingham Forest team have got too much for them. Our players need to come out the blocks. I'm expecting and I hope for a fast start. I'm looking for our wing players to get in, down the channels. I'm looking for link-up play with Anderson and Gibbs-White. I'm expecting it to be unchanged in terms of team lineup, unless there's some movement for Sangare between now and Sunday coming. So if the West Ham situation with him going there starts to come to fruition, then I expect Douglas Luiz to come in his stead. The bench options look amazing. We should have picked up the win against Crystal Palace. In the dying 5-6 minutes or so, it was all Forest. And that's only the second game of the season. A great point on the road at a place that we know is always going to be tricky. And all the backdrop to that Palace game, you get in there, you get a point, you get out, and we did that. We're still unbeaten. For me, 3 points against West Ham is an absolute must. So, like I said, I'm expecting unchanged unless Sangare and West Ham is going to happen, in which case Douglas Luiz comes in. I'm not suggesting that Douglas Luiz is the automatic like for like, because we know Douglas Luiz can play in that kind of deeper lying role, but he is very effective as an 8. So him and Anderson in tandem together could be a very interesting combination. I'm not quite sure what Nuno will have up his sleeve, but I trust in him. I completely trust in him and the coaching staff to have a game plan for West Ham. I'm expecting 3-0 at a minimum. Wood back on the score sheet. Again, I think he's going to have I said it before, he's going to score more goals this season, Chris Wood, than he did last year in the Premier League. So, going into the first international break, 3 points at home to West Ham. I'm going to be there. I'll be with my son Orlando. I know the Random Pundit is going as well. So any Forest fans that would like to come over and say hi, just to have a quick chat, it'd be wonderful to speak to you. I'll be in the Trent Navigation beforehand and look forward to chatting to as many of you as possible. So, come on you Reds, be positive. I know that it's been a bit tricky the last 7 days with the worry about the Nuno saga. I'm certain that that's going to be sorted out. I'm certain that by the close of the window, we are going to be looking so good in terms of squad depth, in terms of players fighting for position. We're going to have the 1 or 2 fullbacks that we want. Everything is going to come together so that we go forwards into our Europa campaign in the best shape possible. Come on, you Reds.
Alrighty. There's an extensive look at how Greg's seeing this, what's going on, but appreciate him jumping in and sharing his thoughts on that. I know it's a bit tricky with him being kind of shifting around to different places in Europe, but he was back in Poland, back with Orlando, which is fantastic. So, as always, guys, we appreciate those who support Talking Reds. Always appreciate our contributors and appreciate those in the comments. And if you would, though, like and subscribe, it certainly helps. And if you haven't visited us before, we're grateful you're here. And for those who listen on Apple, Spotify, appreciate you as well for listening in. And we have had some issues just because Greg's the guy with the access to the account. I cannot get into those without requesting a code. And you can imagine from the time difference, that's not exactly convenient most times. So he will get those loaded. So apologies to anyone who listens on Apple and Spotify that we haven't been able to get those out there. So cool. All right. Well, you know what we need? We need this.
Send them back to East London! We send them back!
I hope anybody's not stupid enough to write us off.
What perfect timing that little soundbite from Ola, I believe, was from when he scored against West Ham, wasn't it? Was that the match?
I think it was, yeah.
Send them back to East London. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, buddy. Go ahead, Raf. Let's give us your opposition preview.
Right. If you can, I've shared my screen. If you can pop it up.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
Cool. Righty ho. So, what we've got, this is going to be the format for the first couple of games when we haven't really got too much of what Dan will do is show the past. I'm just showing really what's happened between what we know of the team last season and how has it actually shaped up over the summer and what do we expect. So what we can see is that actually they have lost a lot of squad players, lost a lot of players, and they haven't really filled them in. So they've lost about 10 players that have gone out. And they're, these are names that we all know from them. So it's kind of your Kudoses, Antonio, Danny Ings, Kufal, Cresswell, Kurt Zuma, Fabianski. These are all core players that they use like as part of their rotation. So they've been hit quite hard. If we take a look then before we go to who's come in, then if we look at in the middle of those that were kind of starting of their blueprint when they had everyone in, they were playing at times a back three. Potter does move this formation around quite a lot, but this is kind of the best guess at what they probably might do because they're trying to use Fulkrug now that he's fit, I think, as much as possible. Is that you've got Cresswell that's dropped out of that back three and Kudos has gone. So they've lost those two from their starting lineup. And then if we have a look at their bench has been decimated. More than 50% of their bench has gone as well. So they're not in great shape from that perspective. Then we have a look at who's come in. Well, they've got Callum Wilson on a free. When he's not injured, he might start ahead against Fulkrug, but Fulkrug seems to be starting. So that's not really an upgrade, but he can go on the bench. Walker Peters might come in then for Cresswell that's there. Hermansen has played 2 games and seems to have already been dropped as a goalkeeper after 2 shocking performances and 18 million quid that was spent on him. So the Hammers being the Hammers with their kind of research into their transfers, which is great. Diouf has come in and is actually looking fairly decent for them. Tadibo was actually on loan with them, so he's not really a signing. He was their kind of right back last season, or a kind of right centre back last season. So there's no change that's there. And then Fernandez has come in as of 2 hours ago, signed. And this is what we alluded to earlier in the show. Do you start him or do you not start him? But the issue they've got is in that midfield, your Souček and your Paqueta, or if you've got Ward-Prowse that sits in the middle, there's no mobility, there's no speed. And I talk about that engine room quite a lot. That's where they really, really, really struggle. And they get out-battled in midfield, outsped in midfield. And it's trying to get the ball quickly off to Bowen, effectively, who is their lethal player. He's so good that FPL have reclassified him as a forward because he is actually so lethal in that regard. They do, though, have a squad of 28 players, which they're going to have to whittle down to 25. But they have promoted 4 players up from their under-21s. They had some other under-21s that were there. But again, if you're looking at those upgrades, no, those are some of the squad players they had from last time. So their squad has actually got worse rather than better as we sit here right now. From an injury perspective, Somerville and Guillem are the ones that are injured. That actually does limit what they've got from off the bench in attack, of what they can take off the bench. And they are what I would say is probably some of their key substitutes. You would expect that they would use them off the bench in a game. And so those 2 are missing for them. And if we have a look at, though, if they're worse than they were last season, and they were finishing 14th and pretty much only 1 point over 15th and 16th of Man United and Wolves, very near the trap door, and we have a look at what we've got in the locker, this is actually, like we've had for the first 2 games, this is a perfect time to play them. With the only wild card thing here is the fact that Potter is playing for his position. If he loses this game, he's out. I'm expecting if we score first, all we're going to be hearing, and I'm going to be singing it, is you're going to get sacked in the morning, because I'm pretty sure that's actually what's going to happen. And then does Fernandez suddenly give him a spark from somewhere and a bit of life in that engine room and some creativity magically on the same wavelength as Bowen, and boom, bang, a goal goes in, and there's not much we can do about it because Bowen is that good. But our defence is awesome, and that's really where they are, pretty much in a nutshell of where West Ham are.
Fantastic. Any thoughts, Dan, on that? What Raf just brought up. I mean, I know Bowen's the as he's outlined here is he's the guy, but I think we've managed him decently well in the last last season. So I kind of confident that he'll be good, but we can keep him at bay a little bit.
The guy who stands out in the numbers that I've looked at is more Paquetá. In terms of he's still a very, very big influence for them. He's not hit the levels that he did before all of his kind of problems, but I think he's still the guy you've got to stop, getting the ball to Bowen. I don't think Bowen can do it on his own. I think he's good in that final third around the box, but I think Paquetá's the guy you've got to stop playing to stop them playing wherever he pops up.
That's the engine room. That is the engine room piece. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then that Diouf at left back looks good as well. So I think he's an upgrade on Emerson that they've shown on the chart on the formation.
Yeah, he is the one. I think he's the one that's come in that has actually given them a bit more. Kudos was very random because he was unplayable on his day when he could be bothered, and then absent from games when he couldn't be. Which in a way I quite like the fact that he's not in their side, because it takes the random element of you don't know what you're going to get and of which person can come out. So for me, it makes their team a little bit more predictable from that way. But yeah, so I think that's really where we are when we have a look at them. And yeah, I don't think Magassa signed in time. And then it's really a case, if you look at who they've signed, there's not much that you're really fearing from there of what they've signed, other than what we've talked about from the perspective of what Diouf offers them. And then if suddenly Fernandes comes on and has a blinder in some synchronization with everyone else.
Like, now I've picked him up, he's either going to be terrible and people will be like, what are you on about, wanting to sign him? Or he's going to score the winner or something ridiculous. There'll be no in between. There'll be no in between.
Well, you got a pretty good hit rate thus far, Dan. So I'd have confidence that your scouting on him is probably spot on. Did you? Forgive me, Raf. I may have missed it in some sort of host/ADHD moment. Did you? What about Fernandez's offering in terms of what he's going to bring to that squad? Adding some athleticism, adding a little bit more energy and spark to that midfield space, because I think that
I'd hand over to Dan, because Dan is the one that scouted him 100%. But it's the simplicity of that's the linkage with the front, and he's very much front foot.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'd be interesting to see where he fits in, because at the minute they've obviously playing that number 10 role, and the kind of two midfielders behind him, and it's always been the question with Fernandes is he's kind of an 8, but he can play the 10. So will he be given that central role to just play almost like a Gibbs White behind a front two, or will he play a deeper role and maybe replace Ward-Prowse? Or you'd think he'd probably replace Souček as having a bit more impact going forward and back, but none of this really in time for tomorrow, realistically.
No, although they can, and they have played Bowen and Füllkrug or someone up front, and they have actually had that 10 role, which has been done at times under Potter last season. So it is in their playbook to be able to do that. But again, Fernandes is literally wet through the door, so green in that team. Is he going to understand the movement when you're in that and you're the one that's trying to link everything together? That's the one bit that you can't just click. Well, I say you can't. Goodness knows what he's going to do on the day. So yeah, I don't want to speak too soon, but it's doubtful the fact that he will have the instant impact with the type of role when you come into the team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, excellent work, guys. Appreciate both of your little segments there. We don't want to diminish the opportunity to talk about the cheese trader, so we're gonna put on a little cheese trader ad, and then we've got a few more minutes left before we close out. But appreciate all of you guys continue sticking with us. We've got 91 people in here. I know we were overlapping with Forest Focus, so my deepest apologies to Matt. I'm sure they've got plenty of action on their side, but we appreciate those who are joining us and participating in Talking Reds today.
The Cheese Trader, based on Grape Lane in York, is a cheese lover's paradise. Home to some wonderful specialty cheeses, relishes and chutneys, and also with a fantastic street food menu. Try their loaded fries or posh cheese on toast. It'll be the best you've ever had. Owned by Forest fan Stu Freestone, the Cheese Trader proudly sponsors Talking Reds. Quote Talking Reds every time to get 10% off your order. The Cheese Trader and Talking Reds, the perfect cheesy mix.
Yeah, Stu Freestone, the cheese trader, just a brilliant guy with lots of depth. He can do a lot of things. On the other video, there's a wonderful the posh cheese toasty and the fries, right? And so he's got a lot more to his game than just the cheese. He uses the cheese well on some other wonderful things that he prepares for people who come into the shop. But I have to say too, I really appreciate Greg, the kind gesture with him along with Stu for sending that basket to Gary recently, Gary Lamb. Bless you, buddy. We appreciate you, Gary. I know you go through a lot daily, so glad that could brighten your day a little bit. But I want to give all the credit to Greg and Stu for sending that on behalf of Talking Reds. That was very kind of them. But if you do want to order the cheese, you get 10% off when you quote Talking Reds. So please take advantage of that because it's worth your time. I promise. Those cheese hampers are well worth the time. All right, so we've kind of come to the end of the discussion around West Ham. But we've got a few other things going on, specifically in the fullbacks. Dan, it's finally happening. We're finally getting some fullback coverage. So we've got a few that we know have been linked to us, including Gitruda. Is it Size or Says from I don't know which one where he's from. But then is it Bruges? I think he's from the club that he plays for, and then I think the other one is Victor Christensen from Leicester. But I think you've got kind of a focal point on the signing because we've been reported hasn't been officially announced by the club yet, obviously. But we have Nicolas Savona, who's going to be coming into to the squad. So, what's your thoughts on him? Is this Savona? Yeah. What's your thoughts on him, Dan, in terms, what he provides, and then in addition, anything that you want to talk about with regards to the other fullback prospects?
Well, I suppose he's 21. He's had a solid season of experience. I think possibly a little bit more, but he's different to what I expected we'd look for, because I think he's a little bit different profile to what we see Ola Aina as. So, I see Ola Aina as someone who can carry the ball, hold on to the ball, and potentially could take us up the pitch. Although I think he does have the reins put on him a bit by Nuno in terms of both of our fullbacks. Really, defense is always first. So what Savona ticks is certainly that box of being defense first, because I feel like he's a big guy. He's almost looks like a centre back that's playing right back. And his numbers, aren't great when you look at this chart. So on this chart, he's the blue line. Nico Williams is the yellow line. He's the kind of standard bearer for fullbacks. On the right hand side is where we're focusing here in terms of that wing back fullback role, and Nico Williams is right up there as one of the best in the Premier League over the last couple of seasons. Ola Aina's in red, not too far behind him, and then you've got the two guys we were linked with. So Gertruda is a little bit more of that ilk, but Savona, you can see he doesn't really hit the heights on any of these kind of roles so far in what he's done at Juve. What he does stand out at is that deep conductor role, which I've called it, which is, he's more likely to get on the ball and act in possession, try and be that extra midfielder to just keep things ticking over, as opposed to bombing on down the wing and putting crosses in and taking players on. I don't think he's going to offer that, but he does pop up in the box as well, because he's ratcheted up a couple of goals in his short time, so he will pop up and get on the end of things. But I don't think you're going to see him like bombing past opposition players and putting crosses into the box. You're going to see a defender first and foremost, and someone who's safe in possession. Like really, I suppose that's the second chart is just comparing him and Aina directly. So again, he's the blue line, and the only thing he stands out at is ball retention, which is safe. That is choosing the short pass, choosing the safe pass, having a high pass completion rate, which is the opposite of Ola Aina on here, who's more in that ball carrying. So we've got two different profiles of fullback here. We've not really got an understudy to Ola Aina. We've got someone different so far, but as you know, I've got good faith in Nuno to get out of this player whatever he wants from him once he's in the door. But yeah, look, it's one I can't get too excited about him based on the numbers. I can't be telling you that we've found this hidden gem from what he's done so far. So it's got to be a case of trust the recruitment team in terms of what they see in terms of potential.
Yeah, it's super interesting. But what I see is how this whole squad is being built gives us different tools for different oppositions and different game states. And I think that's what he gives us. Also, the fact that he's 21. So I think that he's going to grow in what he does. But he can play right back. He can play centre back. He can play left back. So he can play anywhere along the back line, which is great, because if you put him on the bench, that kind of frees up a bench space, which are a premium for us with the multitude of attacking talent and midfielders that we actually have. So that gives a bit of option. But it does suddenly lean into, if you take Nico's superpowers that he's got, you could move into a bit of a Chelsea-esque, and to be honest, Liverpool started doing it first, a bit of Man City, but it's this inverted wing-back system or full-back system where Nico doesn't necessarily invert per se, but you take Nico that goes in and he goes into midfield, and then the rest of the back line turn into 3 centre-backs, basically, when you've got possession. And then Nico can go in midfield, not into the middle, but probably on the left-hand side. Anderson conducts everything in the middle, and Sangare pops up on the right-hand side to maybe just block that if anything goes wrong. And then that gives you 3 in midfield to then support the 3 that are behind Chris Wood when we've got possession. And that then builds a lot more of this. If you look at Chelsea, what is it? It's all about possession retention. And so that gives an option into this more possession-based type of game by having him as an option. And maybe when we're 2-0 up, that's kind of what we do. He's safer with the ball, and we just have one outlet that's going down there, and we can lock down the back line. Plus with Luiz as well. So Savona's 6'4". So you start piling him in the box with Wood, with Milenkovic, with Murillo, and you have Luiz over the ball conducting set pieces, and you're suddenly into massive threat of set pieces. Although his heading, that I've looked at it, is not actually that awesome for someone 6'4", but Milenkovic managed to get Murillo's. Oh yeah, Morato out the door. But Milenkovic has managed to fix Murillo's heading over a season. So just give him a season with Milenkovic, and I'm sure that his heading will massively improve.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with that, Dan? Do you kind of get on board with the idea of Greg saying he's kind of a fullback closer, sort of in that Morato mold, playing in that back three potentially, things of that nature?
Yeah, I do. But then obviously the AFCON issue, someone's got to play week in, week out for a little while for Aina. So, that's where it's going to be a different style of fullback, particularly if on some of those European games, for example, where we've seen the draw, and we'll be expecting to really go at a couple of those teams. But potentially we'll be thinking about resting Ola Aina for those games. So it's still one where
that's the left back though. We're getting another fullback in. I'm expecting that fullback is the one. Yeah, that's the one that's near the rotation for first team.
You can mix across Williams.
Because Williams can go right back.
Yeah, swap in so you still have that outlet. Or if we do still end up with Bakwa from somewhere, and you're really expecting to dominate a game, then he has got a bit of experience playing a defensive role on the right as well to give you another option if you're really going for a game.
Imagine that.
But it seems like he's on the way to Fulham, unfortunately, more likely than not. But we'll have to see.
Yeah,
roll the dice. I think we'll find out today. But if you had Nico going down one side, Bakwa down the other, you had Luiz, you had Anderson, you had Morgan Gibbs-White, you had Ndoye, you had Callum Hudson-Odoi, and you had Wood or Callum Wendo, all just rushing forward. Oh man, alive! That is exciting.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I just the differential here, the variance between what we had last season and what we have this season. I mean, it's getting to the point where Jota will probably be on the bench, but he's going to have a hard time, I think, at some point in the near future, being able to actually crack that opportunity, even on the bench, which I assume he'll probably go at some point if it's not in January. Why is Raf trying to imitate Dan's picture of Brian?
It's Raf.
Oh, okay. Got the halo. Nice. Yeah. I know. I kind of missed the. I like the throne room that you got with all your wonderful shirts that are.
Yeah, I'm between the two rooms at the moment. That room is not in a state, let's just say, to be usable today, but it will be soon. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, we've kind of hit the end of the episode. Appreciate everybody sticking with us again, and apologies for any technical mishaps or any little oddities throughout the episode. But definitely appreciate Dan and Raf keeping an eye too on Europa. So we've got some pretty good draws in Europa. Excited for those. I'm sure the boys will, especially in our WhatsApp chat, will be ready to start purchasing their tickets and get themselves scheduled for those matches. I wish that was something I could do. Unfortunately, it will not happen. But I do look forward to coming over in October. One thing we didn't touch on, and just real quick as final thoughts in terms of you guys giving your predictions. I know Gary Lamb put in the chat 3-0, I think was his prediction. Greg said 3-0 as well. So give us your predictions. And also, we didn't really jump into the lineup to talk about what we thought our starting 11 is going to be. I can't imagine it's going to change much, but I'm just curious if you could also just touch on if you think there will be any change. Could we see a Douglas Luiz has a little bit more athleticism, a little bit of a different profile from a midfield space coming in instead of Sangare, or are we going to just see kind of like business as usual with that starting 11? So I'll start with you, Dan. Just give us your final thoughts and then all of that.
Yeah, business as usual for the starting 11. I think depending on the game, if we're chasing the game, you'll see maybe the likes of Luiz come on earlier to try and have an impact. If we're trying to hold on to the game, you're more likely to see Ryan Yates come on. That's the kind of, that's the depth we've got now. We've got these options, haven't we? It's just too early for a change to that starting 11, and there's absolutely no reason to. We've performed well. So the next issue is, after that is where we're at with Nuno. Obviously, so it's sad because I sort of feel like I just want to get this weekend out of the way now, because if we can get this result, and then if we can put the rumours and everything to bed, it'll almost be a relief when it should feel like an exciting period, because we've started the season quite well and we've got everything to look forward to. But that's where I'm at with it mentally, I think. And then my only final thought is that now that we're playing Porto in the Europa League, does that make Mourinho's return even more spicy, given his history there? Now that he's suddenly put his name into the hat, even though that seems very unlikely. West Ham seems a bit more likely for him. But yeah, that's my only final thought. That's another thing in the background. So I just want some calm after this weekend. Would be nice.
Did you say your prediction score?
Oh no, I didn't. I don't really. I think we'll win. Predicting the specific score, I mean, I'm just going to say 2-0. I think 2-0 will do me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. Raf?
I don't think any changes to the starting lineup. I think it's super harsh on Sangare. We're getting his confidence up. This is not the time to pull him in any way, shape or form. Just let him keep doing what he needs to do. The midfield's not quick. It's ideal for him anyway. So just keep him in there and he can do what he wants to do. For me, I am more positive about the Nuno situation. I think that it's just a bit of a personality clash. Nuno's now been given a really good squad. If we get him as extra goalkeeper before the window closes and another fullback, I think he will be happier. And Marinakis realizes that we're in a really good spot, and I don't think he wants to dismantle anything. So I think he will bash their heads together and tell them to get on with it, or come up with a plan to keep them apart and then do their separate jobs away from each other. I think probably that will be the way that it goes. For me, for the game, again, I think again, is it going to be the New Forest or the Old Forest, right, that turns up? I'm banking on New Forest turning up. It's a game we should win. We will win it. And yeah, probably I hope 2-0, and I'll be a comfortable 2-0 would be absolutely brilliant. Nothing is ever comfortable with Forest, but I'm hoping New Forest can get into this more comfortable game management state.
I love hearing New Forest. Yeah, brilliant, Raf. Appreciate that. Yeah, because we were talking about that last time. I love that phrase. You got these beautiful like buzz phrases like New Forest. So we kind of reinvented ourselves this season, like Dan was mentioning, and you guys have mentioned in the past kind of episodes, that we're starting to kind of want to move into that sort of possession, but useful possession based approach, right? Not useless approach that we saw from a Southampton last year. Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. I kind of gravitated to a 2-0 win. It feels like it's time for a clean sheet for Matt Sells to get that
that's
clean
a great
sheet.
Point. Yeah, because it's been a while, hasn't it? I can't remember the numbers.
Yeah,
but it's been a while. So that would be a big,
it has.
Big thing if we're calling them New Forest, we don't want the New Forest to not be able to keep clean sheets.
That's right. I agree with that. So it'll be nice to get some depth in the fullback ranks, as we've talked about, maybe to provide a little bit of a different look. Dan, thank you for the great insights. Raf, great as always. I'm going to say 2-0. I feel it'll have moments where it feels like we're losing a little bit of a momentum, but I feel like we're gonna hopefully come out and dominate the majority of the match, because I do think they've got good players. They're certainly under the guise of a manager who feels like he's dead man walking at this point. That would be really interesting to see Jose Mourinho come back into the fold in the Premier League. But you're right, the West Ham situation seems like a good option for him to enter that fold. But yeah, appreciate everyone who's listened, who's watched and participated with us. 136 people in here now. Appreciate all of you, and for subscribing and liking, Talking Reds. For all those who haven't done that yet, please do that. Sad that we couldn't get more Greg into the fold, but we'll be back next week. Thank goodness he'll be back with his great insights and his puppet mastery on the hosting component of it. So I appreciate everyone who's endured me for, like, goodness gracious, it's been like over a week now they've had to endure me as the host. But I appreciate all of you guys who have come on the show too and endured that as well. One thing I did want to call out real quick, a couple of things. Firstly, Holly from Forest Women's Fancast has put out something, I think, on X, and I will put it out as well, talking about the importance of sharing or sharing this link. That's a petition that talks about wanting to make the women's kits available, the replica kits available to fans. And so she's going to put that out there, I think, on socials, and we'll also do that in accord with her, because the women's team's fantastic and we appreciate them. Appreciate Holly and Ollie for what they do, and Holly's partner as well for all that they're doing for that great podcast, because they do a great job with it. And so the last thing I wanted to quickly touch on, because I know we're just over the hour mark, is our squad. I guess call this UEFA League participants, and is it squad worth? Is that what I is that?
Yeah,
is
it's
that
a
right,
value.
Matt?
It's the value of the squad.
Yeah. So Forest, if I remember correctly, on the left, the one on the right's a little hard to see. I think we're ranked 9th in the Premier League of the Premier League teams, right, in Europe, that have the value of, was it 533 million euros, I think? Is that right?
We're 16th globally in terms of the value of our squad, and that puts us 9th in the Premier League. Yeah.
But it just goes to show, as Raf kind of put out there on X, or on our WhatsApp group rather, he said, I haven't been dipped into X too much this morning. It's an early start for me. And it's going to be a remote working day today, which will be nice. Leading into a bank holiday weekend for the United States on Labor Day on Monday. So we'll have a nice day off. But it just shows, right, Raf and Dan, I mean, where we've come in terms of the value of our squad, and just how it's going to be interesting as we get close to the end of the season. I mean, we're just beginning the season, so we don't want to jump too far ahead, and we're looking forward to what's to come this season overall. But it's remarkable, just the transformation of our club from, being at the bottom of the championship, as we're all acutely aware of, or even League One prior to that, to now. I mean, it's incredible. So I appreciate the Raf sharing this information, and definitely appreciate all of your contribution today. Look forward to a great match on Sunday and a wonderful weekend for everybody. Appreciate all those who have tuned in. But come on, you Reds.
Come join Greg and Richard.